Hello, everyone. My name is Trivik Verma. I'm an assistant professor at Technology Policy and Management faculty in the area of urban science and policy.
And I'm Roberto Rocco, associate professor at Baukunde in spatial planning and strategy.
Today, together, we'd like to talk to you about the need for spatial justice and a sustainable future. Climate change has impacted several parts of the world. It's rapidly becoming an existential threat. The damage is perhaps the greatest in the global south, but they've also contributed the least to it. As a reaction to this global problem, the EU plans to transform its economy for a sustainable future by turning climate and environmental challenges into opportunities. There are perhaps three most important dimensions outlined in this mandate. The first, that there are no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. Economic growth is decoupled from resource use. And finally, no person and no place is left behind. But what do we mean by this? The just transition means that the burdens and benefits of this transition must be fairly shared, with special attention to the needs of the most vulnerable people and communities. But the environment is one natural system, everything's connected. In this image, for instance, in the flooding of Bangladesh in 2020, a quarter of land was flooded and millions lost everything that they owned. So, what do we really mean by when we say no person and no place is left behind? Are we going to focus only on citizens in Europe, or also include the global south, those who've contributed the least to climate change and environmental degradation, but face the strongest wrath of nature? Inequalities exist all around us. Urban spaces is a huge catalyst in widening inequalities. In this image, you can see slum lines along the Methi River near the National Stock Exchange in Mumbai. The city is both a home to $1 billion palace and to the most largest slum in the world. As our cities and countries grow in number, we put so much pressure on energy needs and the environment. By 2050, when the EU Green Deal wants to transform to sustainable futures, our cities will be inhabited by 80% of the global population. Whether it is access to water, energy, mobility, resources, whatever it is to build a better life, addressing any problem in the world will inevitably lead us to rethinking urban spaces. How do we then achieve just transitions for a sustainable future? It's not just making cities or resilient infrastructure, collaborative governance frameworks, or a circular economy that decouples GDP from resource consumption. The answer also lies in addressing urban inequalities through spatial justice. Central idea to this is building social cohesion in our society.
But we must not forget that sustainability has many dimensions. Larson and others claim that for sustainability to exist, three crucial dimensions must happen simultaneously. While we understand well that environmental sustainability is, and what economic sustainability is, the social dimension of sustainability and resilience are more difficult to grasp. What is social sustainability? What is social resilience? Slum dwellers in the global south are very resilient, but is that enough? Inequality is deeply entrenched in many societies, but extreme inequality erodes social and political stability and cohesion, without which we cannot be truly resilient. Leave no one behind is not only a moral imperative. Justice also underscores acceptability, support, compliance, suitability of solutions, and is reflected in space. How do we address spatial justice? Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In this definition, we find two fundamental concepts. The concept of needs, that implies the existence of basic human needs that must be met with our available resources. In other words, everyone has basic human rights, which governments have an obligation to meet with the resources available. And the concept of future generations, a silent stakeholder who's not here now to claim their rights. This notion also brings the idea that even a narrow notion of physical sustainability implies a concern for social equity between generations, a concern that must logically be extended to equity within each generation. But there are several ways to conceptualize and enact justice in policy making and design. How can we choose the right perspective that will enable us to go forward with shared visions and for a desirable future? The Honorable Amartya Sen, an Indian Nobel Prize winner, economist, and philosopher, draws our attention to the need to include public reasoning and public justification in the way we conceive, design, and implement policies and projects. This means that robust and renewed forms of democratic engagement must be infused in the governance of sustainability transitions. Citizens and community engagement and participation must be at the core of innovation and design.
We hope that you consider thinking about urban inequalities and spatial justice when you discuss a sustainable and resilient future, and that you include co-design and participation in the way you seek for innovative solutions. You can find us both on Twitter or by email through the faculty websites.
A new year and a new hope around the corner. This effort has brought us together to think of spatial justice, and we hope that we can engage more with our communities and with you to contribute to this shared vision for a sustainable planet. Stay safe.